Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grey Market Blast, where myself and the awesome Angie Setzer will be giving, well, mainly Angie, will be giving a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. And before we get underway, just so I don't get a tap on the shoulder by the Plod, the Rozzers, the Old Bill, that's obviously just free English names for police. Obviously, I don't expect you Americans to understand that. Let's get the legals out of the way. So, as usual, nothing discussed in this space is session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PRQ Global Limited, PRQ or PRQ Suite, or indeed the hosts, which, as you know, is the amazing Angie and myself, Ryan. Way!
Who is super amazing.
Oh,
But
there it is.
you said something
Right,
about the
end of the
cops, and
show.
I
I'll
had to
peace. That's
run.
it.
So it was like, did someone say the fuzz? The police are here. I don't think we need
Police
to. Yeah.
5-0.
Happy Tuesday. I am
Happy
in
Tuesday.
a Dr. Seuss style mood today. So tough tariff talk trips up trade. Yeah, you like that?
Love
And to
it.
think I spent tens of thousands of dollars on an English degree I don't get to use. So just really, I mean, it's all stuff that we know, right? I feel kind of bad coming in and being like, hey, everyone, you want to listen to me talk for 10 minutes on things you've already heard everyone talk about, almost ad nauseum, but here we are. And so, trip. Tariffs are on, right? Mexico, Canada, we doubled them up on China. And we are starting to get some responses back. We did see from China, and that's really, I think, where a lot of this knee jerk reaction is coming from. Is we did see from China last night that they said, all right, fine, if you're going to keep kind of needling us, then we're going to have to respond, and we're going to respond in a way that everyone had anticipated we would. We're going to tariff the
Yeah.
import of agricultural products. And so basically, China now is doing a 10% tariff on. Looking at a 10% tariff on what corn? I have a list here: corn, chicken, wheat, corn, cotton. That's 15%, and then 10% will be placed on soybeans, sorghum, pork, beef, aquatic products, dairy, fruit, and veggies. And so, a lot of folks are really kind of getting more worked up about the suspension of trade for three U.S. companies: CHS, Louis Dreyfus, and another group, which is, I think, a Bungie affiliate out of the PNW, were listed as, kind of being offenders. They had sent over treated seed, basically, and ergot, is what the customs officials are saying. And everyone, again, is losing their mind over that. But, no one really lost their mind over the fact that we've already seen custom officials do this. And you cite the same reasoning, to ban Brazilian imports back the end of January. So January 22nd, there were five different Brazilian entities. Cargill, ADM were two of the ones listed, and then three other major Brazilian companies that, had already had their hands slapped once about by Chinese customs officials when it came to what they're calling problematic imports, questionable quality. Now, of course, the timing is in conjunction with this whole entire response to the tariffs, and to, in conjunction with China responding in kind with their own set of tariffs and things like that. And so it's negative, or it helps to kind of exacerbate the negative feelings that we have. But from an overall standpoint, to be realistic, China was not going to import any wheat from the US, or a very small amount. They have a very large wheat crop, very good quality last year. A year ago, they were importing massive amounts of US wheat because they'd had a garbage crop the year prior and needed to blend stuff out. So, for the most part, in the physical trade, no one was really anticipating China to come in and buy in size when it comes to wheat. No one in the physical trade was anticipating China to really come in and buy in size when it comes to corn, outside of hopes of phase one. And when it comes down to it, from an overall Chinese purchasing standpoint of soybeans, they basically have 58 million bushels, 45 now, because we had export inspections come out yesterday. 45 million bushels of soybeans, just over a million metric tons of ownership here in the US that they have left to ship in the short term. I venture a good portion of that is owned by COFCO, and it's very unlikely the Chinese government is going to, suspend imports from COFCO. Now, the cost of their beans just went up, by 10% or so, but again, it's the Chinese government, and I don't know, how that works on the inside. But we will be watching. There's rumors or talk of cancellations and things like that, and in reality, it's going to be very difficult to see them aggressively cancel large amounts of purchases, at least at this point, because they don't
Right.
really have much on the books. And so there's not much in the way of, a major threat from China to come in and hit us upside the head. Now, we've expected this to happen. It's, kind of like your biggest fear becomes reality to a certain extent. And so we are seeing a mass exodus of fund length and folks coming in and just selling this thing off, with the idea that we need to return to lows because we're not going to have much in the way of Chinese business. So we knew those things. What I'm really waiting for right now, and I think what most everyone is waiting for right now, is the official response from Mexico, of which we have not gotten one yet. Like basically, they're saying they have several plans, they have several different things they may target, but really, right now, to me, it appears like Scheinbaum is still actively working to avoid the tariffs, whereas Canada has come back and said, okay, immediately $20 billion worth of US goods are going to be tariffed. And in 3 weeks, if we haven't resolved this issue, we have another 107 billion or something like that we're going to tariff. So tit for tat trade war, super lots of fun. Speaking of fun, while talking about trade wars, right, we did have an incredible amount of confusion come into play yesterday as well, where Trump had said that he was going, I think it was more the context, like get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside, in all caps, the US. And then he said he was going to start taxing external products starting April 2nd. We all collectively crapped our drawers on that one, just with the idea of like, hold on a minute, we already just kind of taxed exports via these fees, these port fee increases that we're seeing. You know what I mean? Like we're talking 50 cents a bushel on corn, a significant amount per bushel on soybeans and wheat as well because of these port fees that have been proposed, and then to see
Right.
something that could possibly be, this increase in export tax. And there's still people this morning that are still of the belief that it's an increase in an export tax. It appears that it's an increase in agricultural imports. How that lowers prices at grocery stores and helps with the bird flu, we're going to import eggs, was kind of something that our Secretary of Agriculture had said last week. Those two things seem, one of those things is not like the other, so to speak, but we will be waiting to see what that means as well. I think, from an overall standpoint, it's going to impact produce and things like that more than anything, because that's really where our, a lot of people like to point to the trade, the agricultural trade gap or what have you. And I think we forget that we import a lot of fruits, veggies. Like I just had some grapes, I think, from Chile that were freaking amazing yesterday because I'm a stress eater. So I'm trying to make sure it's grapes and not chips that I'm popping into my chubby little cheeks here. But they were, so that's part of what we're seeing. And that's not really something that's easy to solve, so to speak. Now, could that impact livestock? I'm not in that sector, but I think it does. I think we have a back and forth of trade that happens on that side. Imports of feeder cattle and things like that. Does it impact, the imports of used cooking oil, the imports of other, commodities? Yeah, it really could. And so there's just so much dang uncertainty right now that we're all just fleeing to the sidelines, and that's where we're sitting currently, just until we know more and
Yeah.
get a better feel for what the heck's going on. So it's really, I know, like I said, trade is like 5 bullet points wearing a trench coat stacked upon one another. So anything while we're talking about that before we go to the Black Sea?
No,
All right.
all good, all good.
Woohoo! Let's giddy up because we not only have fun trade stuff, we also have, really major geopolitical sort of transitions that are happening that
Yes.
will be important to watch. Um, President Trump, and I kind of cringed yesterday. I don't know if you did, where I'm just like, gosh darn it. Can someone please, Zelensky, like we love you, but just stop poking the dang bear. Like it's kind of like when
Yeah,
you have a,
right.
I'm not gonna go, but like when Colton's in a bad mood, and sometimes I'll just be like, "Are you in a bad mood?" Like, you know what I mean? Like he's gonna yell at me because he's in a bad mood. But that's kind of where we're at right now with Zelensky yesterday saying, "Yes, I will come to the White House when they are serious about their and in Trump's mind, he is always serious. So how dare you, insinuate that he wasn't serious on Friday? And so um there's a lot of talk shortly after that sort of verbal whatever that you were going to see Trump potentially cut military aid to Ukraine. He came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. Or at least that's not anything that we've been discussing at this point in time. And then later that afternoon or early yesterday evening, it was like, oh yeah, we are going to do that.
Yeah, right. It's
Yes.
bonkers.
So to me, that is craziness. Like it's craziness that the market is just kind of looking at what could be an extreme risk to Ukraine's future. And everyone will say, okay, well, Europe will pick it up. It's not anything to worry about. The US will still sell military equipment. Europe will have the money. And so maybe they will. Maybe that is fine. But I really, when it comes down to Ukraine being able to really focus on agricultural production, agricultural exports, and really just kind of functioning as they were pre-invasion when it comes to the growth and industry and things that we had seen, I think it's going to be difficult. Now, obviously, you're going to have private enterprise come back in and look to build when there's opportunities present and things, but we really don't know what a ceasefire looks like at this point in time. We have the administration discussing some rollbacks of what appears to be individual sanctions on the individuals that have been placed throughout the war, in Russia, like some things that they're offering up as a way to continue the conversation. And so we really have to watch that because I'm trying not, I'm not speaking politically at all. I'm speaking as someone who's been monitoring this situation and its impact on agricultural production for the last 3 years. And really one of the things that has really helped to maintain Ukraine's ability to continue to produce and export goods has been massive help from U.S. air defense, massive help from USAID, and a lot of these things that are going to be very difficult to continue as we look ahead, without the U.S. involvement. Now, realistically speaking, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen and all of that, but it is something to me that I'm worried about what it could look like for Ukraine as we move ahead, if we don't tread carefully. And so to me, that's
Yeah.
a super big risk. I said it yesterday, like in 2 or 3 years, we could be seeing Ukraine, go from exporting nearly 20 million metric tons or more of corn to, half of that or whatever. And maybe not. Maybe this is all hyperbole and everyone can correct me that's on the inside looking out. But, I don't know how you recover from a war if you still have the aggressor, and maybe we have a complete ceasefire and all that. But I don't see why Russia would quit at this point. I just
No, no. Well, this is what we said yesterday. Right? The only winner over the only winner from the weekend's palaver in the White House, and that was
yeah,
Putin.
at this point, yes, I would say that, you're really seeing them emboldened, and I always feel like I have to tread very carefully because there are very, very,
Yeah,
passionate feelings on both sides where it's like, well, it's time for them to stand on their own TV. The Biden administration was handling it wrong or whatever. And you can think that the Biden administration was handling it wrong because I did not think that there should be support, provided in us to see the Ukraine go into Kursk and some of these other things. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there was some
yeah.
missteps along the way, and I think you can say that, but also say that we probably have an important role in helping to provide some stability and
Yes,
keep.
exactly. It's not black
Yes,
and white. It's not as black and white as many people or
want it to
pundits
be.
kind of make out. Because obviously, it's like you said, it is a very polarizing
Yes.
situation, and to try and like kind of pull yourself away from that and
How does
think,
it
you know what,
impact grain flow?
the
That's all I'm asking. You know what I mean? Like if you're
yeah,
still in a country
exactly
where
that,
you're
exactly that.
struggling with what the future looks like or potentially, and maybe we do create a ceasefire that Putin respects and walks, you know what I mean? And awesome if we're able to. But I just don't know if
Yeah,
history shows us that that's necessarily the case, especially, to a certain extent when we have the aggressor not being treated potentially as the aggressor, so to speak. So we'll see what happens before I
yeah,
make someone mad by my words. And so, well, that'll be something that we're watching. The biggest thing that I'm going to say to everyone at this point in time, when it all comes down to it, is yes, soybeans and things when it comes to China trade going forward, that is concerning. I would say at this point, Mexico is going to be very unlikely to target agricultural imports. They really don't have the ability to source a substantial amount of bushels elsewhere at this point in time. And so I
right,
think in the long run, we kind of cooler heads prevail and we calm down, but I said in commentary this morning, in the meantime, the market's having a good old fashioned freak out. I was talking to someone yesterday, and there's kind of amongst the crowd, I will say, whispers that the fund short or, the funds have sold off a substantial amount. Basically we went from 370 some thousand contracts long in corn to where there's some estimates on the private side to where they're only sitting 140,000 contracts or so long currently. And I said it this morning to someone, and I'll say it a million times. Just because we're emotional about something doesn't mean that the overall balance sheet has changed. We still need to work through Brazilian corn production and U.S. corn production, and secure two solid crops out of both regions in order to really kind of stabilize the outlook as we move forward. And so, in the end, to me,
right.
we just have to make it through all of this uncertainty. I don't blame the funds for, moving to the sidelines. There's some questions over open interest and some of these other things. I wouldn't be surprised to see some length close out positions and new shorts come in, which will, limit your big moves in open interest. But, there's just a lot to be paying attention to. And in times of uncertainty, you don't buy, you tend to sell, or at least go to the sidelines. So we're in the process of doing that. It's ugly. And, hopefully, you're not puking too awful much if you're an onlooker in this market currently, because it's not fun. So I think that's it. It was 15 minutes. I apologize. It was a little longer than I intended.
No, but as we said before, as we've said countless times, when there's stuff to talk about, we're allowed to go over, and there's definitely a lot to talk about. So thank you so much, as always, my darling Angie, for just being the hostess with the mostest. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, especially our regular listeners. We really appreciate you. Whatever you're doing today, stay safe, keep it tight, and we'll see
be
you
back
tomorrow.
Woohoo!
Bye.
Have a good one.
Woohoo.